Howdy, howdy, everybody out there. Welcome back to my little digital slice of the grand land of Olean. This is the Raise Your Level workshop that we are doing weekly. And I'm JC, and I'm going to be doing some magic for you today. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. That seemed like a pretty good opener, right? Yay! Sounds fantastic. So we're going to be talking about a couple of different things today. I did want to showcase something else pretty soon, but I can't seem to get it to work. So that's going to have to wait, but I will talk about it briefly here. Ortomnia is a brand new project, or rather, a project that's been ongoing for quite a while from Mystic Shelter. The guy's name is Deli, the individual, I apologize. Deli is from Germany, and they're putting together a trading card game. Well, I wanted to showcase the simulator to play the card game online for you, but I can't seem to get it to work. So I figured today to raise your level, so we're going to go ahead and look at some magic. We have a couple of things here that we want to start with. And just as Ken Weber advocates, first we want to show just some magical accolades, right? Before we get started, we have to get rid of the coin. And that just gives you a kind of a little bit of an idea of what you can do with a little bit of interspacing of silence along with communication in terms of the theme of what we're talking about, which is I'm doing a magic trick, but I'm talking about starting the show. And obviously, the idea is that before we start the show, I got to get rid of the coin, right? Now, because this is raise your level, we might be talking more about the idea of magic theory rather than the idea of the actual magic, because we are going to be working on our live magic practice, which is where we're going to hone in on the abilities. And here we're going to be talking about what I could do to make it better. So this is a very interesting coin trick that I absolutely love. It's just something that's kind of a fun little gimmick thing. It allows you to use all of the important things about coin magic to make the magic really happen. And so I absolutely love the idea. It's still over here. I just it's a brilliant way. Oh wait, it's now over here. Yeah. So it's a brilliant way just to utilize a coin, a single coin, to create a little bit of social proof, really, which is something that we really want to start talking about on the channel. We're going to go ahead and pop out our menu here so that we can go back over. Okay, the kiddos running around upstairs. So we're going to bring this over here. You can't see any of this, but this is the behind the scenes of the... So I like to see my OBS so that I can see that we're still live and that there's stuff happening there. And I've got my pop-out chat just in case you guys join. And I don't want to forget to like the stream. So if you do pop on, make sure you click like. And of course, subscribe so that you can see what we've got going on here. So watch more of our stuff. Now this is a live, so we're a little bit more slow paced. So if you are jumping on, you get to see us in our natural habitat. And so coins, cards, and a little packet trick for you today. How can we elevate our magic to make it a little bit better and a little cleaner and a little smoother, as we call it, polished? Because we want a beginning, a middle, and an end with no fluff. So the idea of this simple coin trick, you could potentially perform all of your magic silent. And here's why. There's two ways that you can do it. First, you want to practice your magic to the point where it is flawless or as best as you can possibly get it and consider it something that you would show the public. Now, I haven't always done that. I love magic and I've been doing it for almost a decade. And I will tell you that I have broken many rules, unspoken and spoken rules of magic. but I am a part of the craft. And I'm not saying that makes it okay. I'm just saying that it's an ongoing journey for me, and I'm not leaving it anytime soon. So just take that as you will. We're learning real stuff here, step by step, sometimes painfully, step by step. And so the two ways that you want to do it is, one is, let's say you get a new magic prop. Oh, that's not the right one. I've already got rid of it. I had something here. I apologize. Thought it was still in that bag. So basically, let's say you get a new magic prop and it comes in the bag and it has the advertisement on the front and then it has the instructions on the back. You open it up, you tinker around with it a little bit, you read the instructions that are on there. They'll give you, some of the better ones will give you a basic routine that you can do with it. Learn the routine as it is instructed on the paper, on the instructions. At no point in time do you want to deviate from that when you first learn it. Now, again, that's one method of thought. So basically, let's say we were going to do something with, I mean, obviously this coin trick. So say the coin trick wants you to do something like this, because I do a lot of extra stuff with it. Let's say this is the basic trick. Show the coin and say, today we have a mystery coin. I can take the coin here and place it into the pocket, but then it will jump back to the hand. Once again, I can show you the coin. It goes into the pocket. You can even see the moment it goes into the pocket, but then we'll jump back to the hand. Last but not least, you can see that the coin is still in the hand, but yet it will jump to the pocket. And then that coin will simply vanish. Now, even the way that I did that is adding a little bit of tact to it, because I'm just naturally drawn to this idea. Like, it probably wouldn't tell you this. It probably wouldn't tell you to show the coin over here. It probably wouldn't do a lot of that. It wouldn't tell you to have fake the coin over here, pretend like it's still in the hand. It'll tell you that part, but it won't tell you that when you bring your hand back to place the coin into this hand before you infect the vanish. That's not something it will tell you. Now, we've had this live going for about 8 minutes. So now I'm going to tell you the secret of this. So if you're still here watching this, you're now learning. That's your window, right? So I'm giving you about over 5 minutes before I reveal the trick, and that tells me that you're really here and invested in learning what we have to teach. This is a shell coin. If you haven't guessed it, or at the very least, there's two coins. Magic is something that happens in the imagination. Okay, so there's usually a slight or a gaff that's involved with everything that we do, and it's up to us as the entertainer to sell you on the idea that real magic is happening, because that's the whole point of entertainment. It's to give you an out of body experience and to have a magical journey along the way. And if we can make you feel that power within yourself, the psychology of it is really where magic happens. So here we have a shell, and there's a lot of, notice that when I did this, I didn't do the twirl in the example that I gave you from the instructions. So the instruction is going to give you a step 1, step 2, step 3 whole thing, or maybe just 1 or 2 steps. It might not even give you a whole routine. It might just say, here's how you do the trick, have fun. You got to build on that. You got to really make it happen. You have to sell the idea that this is a single coin. And coins do this natural thing where they shine, and that creates a spotlight on the coin. And this is a larger coin. And so when you can see the coin held up, make sure that we're getting into the magic theory of it, people. You have a single coin in your hand. You might have a smaller coin, and the bigger the coin, the harder it is to conceal. But the idea is that you want to show this around and get as much light on it as possible, because when people start to see it shine like that, you can see it from further away. That's just a simple psychology. That right there that you're seeing in the camera, you're going to be able to see that probably regardless of the camera quality, because of the way that psychology works, the way that your eyes work. It's drawn to it. Now, the other thing that creates it is a little bit of movement. Notice how it disappeared and then it reappeared. That's going to help you track, because if it were just this, which is what it teaches you, that's fine. But you want to elevate that by making it disappear and reappear, because movement is something that gives you a little bit of, it makes it a little bit more, is the word dynamic. So it gives you texture so that you're not just seeing the shiny coin, which is fine. What you're seeing is you're seeing it disappear, which makes it disappear from view for a second, which resets, recalibrates your brain. And then when you see it come back, you're like, oh, there it is. It's shiny. You're following it. And so it just gives it a little bit of extra tact. And that's kind of what you want to do to keep the brain guessing what's going to happen next. And then from here, what I've done is I've done a French drop. So I start with, and we're learning this idea. And if you have 2 coins, you could pretty much just have one in finger palm and be holding one in the French drop scenario. And basically all you're doing is you're going to come over and take the coin. So it's the French drop, but you're going to take the coin and you're going to clearly see it go in here into the pocket. And then you're going to do a look, no, see. Now this is another big one, because I can't really do this on camera that I really love. So this coin goes in here, and even if they know there's 2 coins, I love coin tricks where they know what's happening, but you're creating entertainment because you're doing all these psychological things that makes them want to watch and see what's going to happen next. So as it goes into the pocket, you're like, okay, great. You're following the hand, because this is the guilty hand. You're following the innocent hand, which is what you want them to think. The coin goes into the pocket, and then you turn over your hand, and you're like, okay, great. Now that we've got rid of that, we can get started. And you're not going to say anything about this coin until it's pointed out, or until enough time has elapsed that you're like, oh. And then you want to react. You want it to be like, wait a second, I thought we got rid of you. Let's do that again. Let's see. This is how it told me if you want to follow the script of like the book, you can basically just show the coin up here, bring it down here, and then you're going to execute the French drop again, but this time it's a real French drop because the coin is once again going into the hand, but you've already set up the premise for them. So now what you're doing is you're doing repetition, which makes, get this, okay? Here's where things get real beautiful for you, right? Because remember what we said here about this. Light, no light, light. Now what you've done is you've created this moment where they're tracking it, but they lose sight of it for a second, and then they regain interest when it comes back into view. When the light disappears, then they regain interest here. So you're utilizing that psychological principle to reset their brain to have renewed interest from here to here. Now what you've done is by breaking the chain, and you get rid of the first coin, the shell goes into the pocket. By redoing the same thing again, you've now created repetition. So now their brain tells them, okay, he's just putting it in the pocket. Now, as I said, I like to show this coin here, even though my hand was empty, so that when you go back to do the same thing again, it's now jumped back to the hand. Wait a second, the brain has been tricked so that when you do it a third time, and this time you actually take the coin, you're like, I'm going to watch you very closely, and you can see it over here, but you don't show this until after you get to the pocket so that they think it's the second coin. So now you, in the sense of like, okay, so there's one coin jumping back and forth. Let's say they guess there's a second coin. Let's say you have a heckler who's like, you have 2 coins. Okay, well, here it is. Then the fake placement. This is a big one. You've taken it from this hand where it's been encapsulated. This hand is now empty. You can show this hand empty, and then now it's gone. And now you've utilized about 4 or 5 different psychological principles just in a simple single coin routine. Now, yeah, there's 2 coins. You could effectively do this with 2 coins. The shell works great. I love using it with a pocket because what I'm doing here is I'm creating this space and distance underneath the table, but into the pocket. So that represents the idea of cover. So if I had a chest pocket, I could do the same thing because I'm doing the French drop, which is dropping the regular coin into the hand. Then I'm taking the shell and I'm putting it into the chest pocket. So now that's gone from view. So when it reappears over here, and then I do the same thing again, I'm dropping from there, and then I'm pretending to show this coin over here, and then making it jump back over here, so that when I come back over to take this coin, then you still think there's a second coin here, but in reality, because you already saw that this hand was empty, in reality, there's no coin. And even if you were to look in my pocket, I'd be like, yeah, the coin is in the pocket. Even if you wanted to expose it, there's only one coin. How do you do it? So you're tricking the brain and you're creating this psychological trail and breadcrumbs to really get this some really weird stuff happening here with that single coin. So I've elevated this trick in a way that I wanted to rely on psychological principles. But now where does the patter come in? Because there's three phases from shell, French drop, and then it's all utilizing the same principle of the French drop, but you're doing something different every time. And then the last one is the vanish. So, I mean, it's almost just like a walk in the park, really. You're just saying, I want to have a beautiful magical show for you today. So why don't we go ahead and just get rid of this coin while we get started here? Oh, hold on. Sorry, this coin can be kind of tricky. Let's go ahead and get rid of that coin. Okay. Wait a second. It's back. That doesn't make any sense. Wait a second. Let me remember the instructions. Sometimes I like to go back to the instructions, especially if it's a tricky coin, really. So what? Okay, I'm just gonna watch my hand very closely over here, and you're not gonna show the coin the third time because you want them to believe it's here, or you could show the coin the third time. It's up to you. I like the idea of showing it over here so that they look over here. They're like, well, what do I have over here? And the fake placement just creates that notion of there being two coins, or that it's the same coin jumping back and forth as if by magic, and then to have it disappear and these coins are out of view. So I think with that, the pattern that I like to use is I just kind of do an informational, like, oh, let's go ahead and get started with the show. Now, of course, if you are here watching, why don't you go ahead and drop down in the comments what you would do differently with that pattern, and maybe we can work on that. So if you're here live, you can go ahead and chat with me live. If you are watching this in the future, go ahead and drop it in the future, and we'll revisit this idea. But that's basically my idea, just a walkthrough of, hey, we're getting started with the show. It's a beautiful little opener for you here. But before we get started, why don't we go ahead and get rid of the coin? Now, of course, you want to make sure that the orientation of the coin is right, which means that for the twist move, you want the shell to be facing you, so that when you twist it around, now the shell's facing them, and that when you drop the shell out, or the regular coin out, that's all you're doing. We're going to go ahead and get rid of this coin. Oh, wait a second. I thought we got rid of this coin. It's a tricky coin. It's a tricky coin. Notice how I look over here, because you want to move your body. You want your whole body naturally gravitating it. When I'm explaining it, I might forget to do things, but when I'm naturally performing it, this is where you want it to appear. You can show that it's going into the pocket, and then, of course, it just reappears over here. So for the third one, when you actually take it, I'm going to watch you like a hawk. And then, of course, it appears over here at the fingertips. It's gone. So there's a question for you. Should we be showing on the third one? So when we do, you've already put the shell in the pocket. You've already done the fake French drop, putting it in the pocket, showing the shell again. When we come back for the third one, like this, when we actually take the coin, but we're going to watch this hand just to make sure it doesn't jump back over here, do we want that moment where they see it jump over to this hand and then go into the pocket? So then you're like, well, oh, Well, if this is in the pocket, or do you not see it? Look, no see, right? They see it go into the pocket over here. So then when you come back, so you're not even looking at your pocket. You're like, okay, that's great. So that's one way of doing it. Do we want to pretend like when it's over here to the pocket that we look and we're like, ah, but I was watching you the whole time. But the idea that we want to think about here is we knew we were taking the coin. So for instance, here's what you're trying to convey. So let's see if that's conveying what we think we're conveying for that final phase. Because everything else is nice. This final phase is really where I'm questioning my own self. Because do I like the psychology of it more than the story? So is it plot driven or is it story driven? And so here's really where the question is for the final phase. We're actually taking the coin, but we're watching this hand so that it doesn't jump back to it. And the question is, do we want to show that the coin is actually in this hand, which might make sense now that I'm thinking about it, because we actually we're mimicking the fact that we're actually taking the coin, but we're not showing it taking it like this. We're covering the coin, watching this hand because they expect it to reappear in this hand, right? That's the idea. We're we're pretending to take it. Let me take a step back here so that I even understand what I'm saying. The whole time we've been trying to put the coin in the pocket. This time, the only reason why we're watching this hand is so that it doesn't jump back in the hand. So we're watching this hand. So showing at the last second that it is in fact over here. Now they're still expecting it to come back over here. So I think showing it over here makes sense. Because if you were just to take the coin from here and to put it into the pocket, then it doesn't give you that last minute of light over here to take their attention away as it disappears into the pocket, showing that you didn't palm it or anything like that. So when you put it into this hand to show that, oh, has it come back? It's gone. So I think for now, until we hear otherwise from people out in the wild, that's what we're gonna do. I think we're gonna. This is the full routine, start to finish. This is where we do the real breakdowns. I want to do a beautiful magic show for you today, so why don't we go ahead and get started? But first, let's go ahead and take care of the coin. Perfect. Okay, so now we can get. Oh, wait a second. Oh, this is the tricky coin, isn't it? Yeah, this is the tricky coin. Into the pocket it goes. Perfect. Okay, now we can get started. Oh, man. Okay, this time we're actually going to keep an eye on the hand here just to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere, right? Okay. Has it jumped back to the hand? No, it's gone. So it's a complete vanish, which is nice. And this would actually work out pretty good. Um, what if we added a beginning phase to this, which I love? The idea of this is my beginning phase to like all my magic, which is simply why don't we do a beautiful little coin trick for you to get started here out of nothing. We're just gonna use your imagination. And there it is. Hacha. So dropping it to here, and instead of shooting it back up like I normally would, this is when you've just got yourself into a perfect thing here, where now it can happen. Huh. Huh. I'm gonna watch you very closely because I want to make sure that you're not gonna jump back over here. Oh, and just like it began, it has ended only in your imagination. So why don't we go ahead and get started today with a fantastic raise your level. After 24 minutes, that's the intro. Yeah, just kidding. So I think that's a really great way, especially if you're just going to do your single coin routine, single phase idea. I like the idea of producing the coin from nothing as if it's imagination, and then it vanishes at the end because that makes sense because there has to be a reason for this to be here like this. So the way that I would do this is, let's say you're doing a coin production, you could potentially, whether you're doing like a multi-phase routine and you just have one coin left after you're done, then you can do that to make it vanish. But if you're doing it by itself as like an opener, then that's a great way to have because the opener is only going to be something flashy. You might come back to coins later, or you might have different coins. But this is a good introduction, a good social proof, a good way to just make some magic happen right before their eyes, where magic is happening at the beginning, in the middle, and at the end, where it appeared out of nowhere, it's jumped back and forth, and even at the end where it vanishes again. So that's a good way to go about doing that. So I think that that's a very nice representation of just a single coin with a shell. And we've talked, it's been 30 minutes, almost 25 minutes, just talking about a coin with a shell. And I could go probably for another half hour just talking about the theory behind it, adding in something else. For instance, I've done this idea with a different coin in the shell. You can actually fit a Chinese coin in the shell. If you really wanted to make some magic happen, you can change the coin. It wouldn't really work in the same principle as a teleportation, but it would work as a way of changing the coin. So that's a little move that I enjoy. And if you know who does it, go ahead and let me know down below, because sometimes I do things, I may have seen things like 5 or 6 years ago and not know who taught me or where it was originally from. So I'd like to get that information so we can credit them properly. But the idea would be, and I don't even know where my coin purse is at the moment, but just imagine, if you will, an idea where this isn't quite what I want to do, but imagine you have a quarter in here and you want to shrink it down. So you're going to do the same idea where you do the French drop, or you're just going to conceal the quarter in your finger palm. And then what you're going to do is when you toss it into the hand, you're going to put the shell into your finger palm, or you're going to lap it or just get rid of it altogether. And then you're just going to squeeze it down, saying, inflation is crazy these days because you used to have $1, but now it's just a quarter. And now you've just entered the quarter into, if you want to make it even more interesting, you could potentially do something along the lines of, so what we're trying to talk about today is we're trying to talk about savings, right? If you want to really get invested, what you've got to do is you've got to make your money make money. Yeah, you got to turn your quarter into $1. That's really where things happen. But remember, it all starts with that quarter. So it's kind of a little bit harder to do because these don't nest together, but it's still possible. But just remember that when you do that transfer for the switch out, that you don't want them to make noise as you're tossing like that. So the best way to do that would be to turn your hand ever so slightly, almost to throw the coin sideways instead of a dump like a shuttle. You're kind of actually just tossing the coin straight across, at the same time doing the French drop, but after the coin has flown across. So they're going to see the coin go across as this is going into your finger palm, and then you can show that. Now, of course, if you want to, you just want to make sure that your money's growing wherever you're putting it. That's a good way to go about it. Now, what's nice about that is you can just slide that coin. Quarter can disappear completely, or you can maintain it in the shell and then put it away. Be careful, though, because if you put the shell with the Morgan dollar or a coin of similar size into your pocket, they will nest pretty good. If you're putting the quarter into the pocket, it's going to have some movement and might fall apart and make some noise. So I wouldn't drop it necessarily. I would just be on the safe side and just place it wherever you're going to put it. So that's another little tidbit of information that this routine could be modified. So instead of doing transportation of a coin teleporting between two places, you could do, in effect, a transformation. It would require a little bit more tact. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to dwell too much more on this because I got some other stuff I want to get into. But the idea is quite simply, you could do the same thing with the initial French drop. You could instantly go into it. Imagine that this coin is a Chinese coin. The thing that you couldn't do is you couldn't do the twist move because it'll show both sides. If you were going to do a twist move, then what I would do is I would go sideways when you come down and just kind of naturally progress it from light, turn it out of the light, and then bring it back into the light so that it looks like it's flipping around. That's the general notion. Otherwise, again, you're just switching it over. You're getting that retention vanish as it transforms into a different coin, and then you'd have to go from there to figure out some other moves, which might be something we'll talk about another time, but I don't have anything prepared for that. I just wanted to give you an idea that you could, for instance, when you put the shell in your pocket, you could load another coin underneath it so that if you wanted to infect the vanish, you could do the French drop with the other hand to show here so that now you have a coin in this hand. Now you've loaded in finger palm a different coin, whether it be a Chinese coin or any kind of coin, so that when you do your second French drop, you could just show that coin is in fact different when you put it in your pocket. So just saying, like, conversion is weird. I don't really understand it because when I have the money, it's this. But then when I go to save the money, it's this. There's an idea for you. So let's leave that alone for now. We're going to move on from coins for a second, and we're going to come back to the coin through handkerchief that we learned last week from Bobo's. But before we get into that, a little bit of card stuff. Now, if there is anybody here watching, do you want to see the packet trick or do you want to see the card trick first? I know packets are cards, but sometimes you could get away with just carrying a packet of cards to effectively do magic if you're not wanting to bring out a whole deck of cards. So a packet trick is a great way to introduce cards without actually having them. Some people will have a single card trick. Some people will have a packet trick of up to 10 cards that they can do. You have options. So just let me know if you are here. If not, then we're going to take a little break. Well, we're kind of getting stuff here. Okay, so it doesn't look like anybody's currently watching, but maybe somebody will be watching in the future, which is perfectly okay. We do have about 20 minutes left, so this is halftime. So because it's halftime, we're going to do some push-ups. Or actually, you know what? I got the weights out, so we're going to do some weights. So we want to work into our lives some movement and activity because if you're going to be a performer, you got to be able to perform. So I could do all this stuff sitting in my studio, but how am I going to be able to go out there for half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour and a half, and perform for people all day if I'm not in good enough shape? So we're going to go ahead. We got 5 pounds. I know I can do more, but that's all I have is the 5 pounds right now. I'm looking for some good weights, but they can be kind of expensive. So if you are jumping on, we are at halftime. We're going to be talking about cards after this exercise break because we do want to make sure that we're working in some movement because we do need exercise in our life. How many are we going to do? Well, I can't do until failure. I mean, I could, but I don't know how much that's going to be. I have shoulder injuries, so I can't do as many of these as I would like, but I will continue to go until I know the difference between pain and the lactic acid buildup. Just remember, anytime you do anything, it's on the deflation where the muscle is being built. So when you deflate the muscle, that's where it's happening. Now for this, because we're talking while we're doing it, this is working the shoulders, but it's also working the lats here for your wings, right? That's where your wings are. Now if you're standing, you're actually using a little bit of your legs as well. And this is just lifting stuff over your head, which is really hard. Have you ever had to stand there and just hold these weights up? Like it just, yeah, that's sore. I know I can do more, but that's not the point, right? We're just trying to get some movement in. We're just trying to feel the lactic acid. Don't forget to shake it out. And I don't have any in the studio right now. I need to get some water, but not right now. We'll get water later. So make sure you're staying hydrated. Reminding you, will I forget? So, okay. Nobody seems to be here to decide whether you want to see a packet trick or you want to see card trick. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do the packet trick and then the card trick. And because we spent a half an hour, we've been talking a lot about coins between last week and this week. We love coin work. Coin work is something unique in of itself. There's just real magic there. So this is something that a lot of people may identify as a stoplight. And so this is my traffic lesson for you for today. We have two cards. One has the traffic light. Red means stop. Yellow means go. Yellow means go really, really fast. And green means go. Of course, if you get the reference, you're a true OG. If not, it's Starman. So look it up. Okay. So here's what we've got. If you're in one of the cars and you're driving down the road, then you get to the traffic light. Two cards, traffic light, right? Okay. Let's say you're in this car and I'm in this car. You get to the red light, you stop, right? Then when the light goes green, I have the red light, you have the green light. So I have to stop. Any questions? Remember, we passed each other, and that's where the green light passes from one to the other. So that's how it typically works when you're at a traffic stop. If you're at an intersection, whoever has the green light can go. Whoever has the red light has to stop. Perfect. Now we still do have the yellow light here because if after you've gone, if there's no more cars, we could potentially go right. This is a little bit extra in case you wanted to learn how to drive. So, yeah. So this is my little bit of my traffic light. So that's fun. That is fun. Now, we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. This is just a beautiful little packet trick that you can have fun with. If they figure it out, I'd probably work a little bit harder on it, but this is definitely not like one of those things that you would stress about. You could do the presentation where it's a traffic light, or you could just do maybe talk about consent, maybe talk about, whatever type of, if you want to do educational, if you want to do entertainment, you could make the theme work for you. And so I just really love, that's just the idea. Like I said, we're not going to go into this a whole lot unless you wanted to. And since there was nobody here, I'm pretty much leading this on my own. But if there were people here, we would break stuff down a little bit more. We could teach it. We could go through it. If not, the idea is that it's a packet trick that you just keep right up here in your breast pocket and you just bring it out if somebody wants to see something really quick. And if they want to see more, then you go into your... You're like, oh, you like the cards? Well, why don't we go ahead and do some card magic today? Now, I have my little helper and I have a coin. What that means is that I just have a deck box and now I can effectively do coin magic and card magic. Now, the one that we're going to talk about today, I just want to make sure that it is set up. I'm not going to do the full deal. I'm not going to do all of it. I'm not going to do my full acrobatic jacks. But this routine I'm calling the Acrobats at Court. And I really love it. So this is the first part of it. And this is not just a 3-phase routine. This is a full act. You could potentially do this, I think, might be close to 10 minutes, maybe. I haven't timed it. So let me time that and see how long it takes to do the whole thing. But here's the first part. This is the Acrobats at Court. And we have got the court cards and we got the ace. Now, the ace is representation of the epitome, the epitaph, the highest level demarcated to a whole other level of awesomity. The ace is the best, right? Now, here's the idea. These are acrobats, remember. So there's a lot of tumbling and a lot of flipping and all of that. It's okay to look. I've seen this trick before. Now, obviously, if you were doing this, you'd probably want to make sure that that's not the case. But for this, I didn't want to mess up for you. So let's get back into it. The first one, of course, should be the Jack of Spades doing his backflip. That's his trademark backflip. The next one, that was kind of cool, even though it was unintentional, is the Queen of Spades. She's actually going to do a whole somersault through the entire deck. Gorgeous. The King, he's going to raise the level a little bit by going face up in the face down deck. 3 somersaults, and he will appear on top. Last but not least, you have the Ace. Remember what I said? The Ace is the best. The Ace of Spades. A little bit of flair, and now he has appeared face up into the deck. And there are the courts. The acrobats at court. Now, the acrobats, of course, are the jacks. Now, this probably isn't a 10-minute routine now that I really think about it. That's a pretty good opener. You can take some time with it. You could probably get 2 minutes out of that because it's a trick in and of itself. And then you could probably get another 2 or 3 minutes out of the acrobats. So that's probably going to give you about 5 minutes. But this is a very interesting effect here, right? Just simply for the fact that this can give you 4 cards. And if you wanted to, you could even add in a third segment, not even a phase, right? At this point, it's a whole trick. And you could actually start with 4 regular cards, turn them, because here's the fun fact about this trick. It's all set up, obviously. But the fun fact is that this setup for the deck is never messed with for this effect. So your first part of this could easily be, let's go ahead and pick 4 cards at random, and then make those cards turn into these cards from the deck, one at a time or all together, or however you want to do it. I'd probably do one at a time for this particular one, just because it adds a little bit more to the routine. But then at the end, all the jacks change all at once, because that's the setup for this. If you watch my recent video, the acrobatic jacks, these 3 cards turn into these 3 cards pretty much instantaneously. And so you might want to do each of these individually. A lot of controlling there. That's a whole other segment, which might even add another 1 to 2 minutes. So you could, we're gonna try it out to see how long this routine actually would be. But if this were almost a 10-minute routine, 5 to 10-minute routine, depending on the audience, there's a lot happening here. And the question is it as good as the single coin routine? Which the fun part is the single coin routine is actually, that's the one from the case. If you did the single coin routine, you have a shell with a coin, and you have a coin inside the box. So you could effectively, if you plan ahead, when you get the cards out, you could be like, oh, wait a second. You took the card. Oop, I dropped my little helper. What is that? Oh, that's where it went. So now you've created this segue after the fact. There's a transition happening, but they don't know that because you've gotten the cards out. Maybe you just toss the box down and the coin falls out, and you're like, there it is, because it disappeared earlier. Can I get it right now? No, it's too far away. We'll come back to that. So these lives are about an hour long for these workshops, and I really hope people get the opportunity to sit and see everything that we have to offer. And if not, that's fine. Maybe in the future. So we're not gonna keep going through things for the sake of exposure. We're basically talking about the magic theory idea of this is what it would look like. Make sure there's nothing here. Yep. So you basically, the jack is the same. So I would probably just do three cards to start it with the jack, and then the jack finds the courts, the other ones, and then these 3 become these 3 to end with a 4 of a kind. So that's a good image right there. I think that's a really nice place to go for this. So we're actually going to get my phone here and we're going to take a picture. And this could actually be a pretty good thumbnail for a, if we're going to want that. So actually, I don't need my phone, do I? Can I do that? I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know if I can. Lots of things happening. Where's my camera? There it is. Okay. Thumbs up. We'll go sideways. So just in case we do want to build out a thumbnail for that, this could be the thumbnail because this is the highlight, right? The coin stuff is at this point arguably is it better than my card stuff? And that was just a single coin routine. You get to decide whether it's in the live or in the comments. You get to decide whether or not the coin was better than the card stuff at this point. I don't know. There's a lot of psychology into the coin stuff. It's more visual. This is definitely catering to a different market. Somebody who likes the progression effect. But you've got this full routine. I'm going to work on that to try to get the third phase, the segment into this, where you're doing 4 cards that transform into these 3 cards. Well, 3 cards transform into these 3 cards, and then transform into these 3 cards. I potentially could do a jumping jacks idea. That could potentially work because these are on top of the deck already. So if you just let's think about it logically, right? Because you do have the ace of clubs somewhere here. 3 jacks on top. Ace of clubs. Ace of spades, king, queen, and then the jack. And then these are going to be, let's say we just have 3 cards picked at random. We're going to do the acrobatic jacks. So this, because it's the acrobats at court, right? Have you seen this? Have you been to the circus? That's a good one. Have you been to the circus? Lots of crazy stuff going on there. People on motorcycles, people juggling, people eating fire, all sorts of stuff. It's crazy, right? Here's what we've got going on. When you first start out, you're picking out 3 random cards like that. We have 3 unambiguous cards with the jack, but that's not going to work for us, right? Basically, you're going to get 3 cards under here like so, and it's the same principle. I don't like that because it puts them right on top. So what I would do, what would I do? How would I affect picking out 3 cards from the deck? And then these are the unambiguous cards. And then we said we would change them one at a time. So that could easily be affected by simply showing the 5. And it changes into the queen. And the best way to do that would be you could then place it in there. Here's the queen. That doesn't make any sense. Actually, that could make sense. Where you go from here, you turn the deck over, put the 5 in like so. The queen. Remember the queen later. You're just bringing all the cards down like this, and then you bring it back in the second phase when the queen does her somersault. So that could work to bring the queen. Now the next one should be the king. So the king did somersaults. So potentially just doing a throw, but again you gotta hide that and potentially put the king down over, like maybe you got the cards growing out like this as you cross, and then you're just doing a simple steal of the top card. But there's some angles there because this is the camera, right? So you're not gonna do too well there. So maybe for the next one, because it's too angly, you've got the ace, right? Here, but that's not. So maybe You know what actually would have worked better? Because this is the ace here. So maybe making it an ace, but these are going to be random cards. So just thinking about it like that, it wouldn't matter if this card's an ace or not. This card, maybe it works like this, where you are just putting it into the center. Remember how we did it? It'd be face up in the center, but we don't like that. So what if we did? Interesting. You know what could work? If you get the king out there, you got the one on the top. Then what I would do is I would actually control this to the bottom as a face-up card because that's the last effect, right? Is the card is going face up into the deck for the king. And then all you got to do is just clean that up, and then that leaves you the ability here where you're thinking, what if we have it show up on top like that? Ooh, buttons. Now, how would you get rid of that? Because remember, for the next phase, you're going to be flipping the deck over. So I think what might work for that is if maybe just a simple, after you got these out, this is pretty interesting what happens here, because now you're directing here. So you're just getting a little pinky break, and as you pick up the deck, because you have it over here in your mechanics grip, the first one, all these are going to go back on top of the deck like so. Oh, with the ace first, uppermost, like so. Remember, the ace is still there. You're going to put these on here while you get your pinky break, and then I've already done the switch to, because now you're just squaring up the cards to deal them back out. Remember, there's the jack, there's the queen. That's not going to work because the jack is supposed to be on top. So we did that wrong. Wrong-o. So I reversed them. We'll get this figured out. Don't worry. Don't worry. Be happy. So ace is going to go here. Oh, I see what I've messed up on. Because we forgot a simple, important phase. When you're doing this, you want to make sure that whatever card you're switching to is face-to-face here like this. Now, that means that the ace would be on the bottom, because here's the ace here, partnered up. You're going to get your break underneath this one, and then you're going to affect the turnover for all of them, leaving this one here coming to the table, this one here. You've already turned that one over, so you're good there. You want to make sure the king is here and the queen is there. So 2 and 2, which kind of makes sense because you got to deal this one first, because I don't do the switch. So basically what that would look like is you're starting with the ace here and here, and then you're going to go here and here. So they're kind of dealt randomly onto the table. Now you're covering up that ace, so they're not going to see it again as the jack backflips here, and then that goes to the table. This one comes here. Now remember what we did last time? You could push them forward to show all the cards. Then as you square them up, you're just going to do the rotation. Now you can do a risk kill if you don't want them to see the ace. Risk kill here because you're just going to bring this up anyway. Because you don't want to show that, and then they're not going to notice this card. So risk kill, get your pinky break, tilt down. This is face up, and then you're covering it anyway to do your somersault to have your king jump to the top. Last one, they're going to see the ace, but you're going to cover it, and they're going to see the black ace there, and then, of course, the flare as the ace appears here. So I think that's a pretty good way to go about it, and then we might as well just go into the final phase of it, which is pretty simple. You want to get a break under the top 3 cards, because there's your jacks. Remember, this one is going to be on the bottom this time, so you want to come right to left. Drop them right on top, turn them over like so. And then, here's what I like doing with this. Then you're going to simply take all 3 of these cards again, and I think it looks better when all of the cards look the same, don't you? Make sure you're not flashing that top card. So doing a nice little spread. You could even potentially put that up here and then spread out the cards flat and just say, you know what, I like when all the cards look the same. I mean, the blue backs are great, but it's when the fronts look the same too. And that's when we introduce the 3 acrobatic jacks, which then goes into its whole other routine. Yeah. So that could work. That really could work. I think that's nice. And then the 3 acrobatic jacks is a whole other routine of itself, where I do 2-card Monty, or is that? Yeah, it's Doc Daly's last trick. I don't know if it's a 2-card Monty per se. It could be. But basically, you do something with the 4 jacks, and then you do something with 2 jacks, and then you do something with all 4 jacks, and then what I like to end with, they've got them up there, is the there's a name for it. I don't know what it is, but it's a spring move. So let me just. It's what I end with, and if I can get to the point where this works out really well for me, if it's a windy day, it probably won't. But the objective is to get to the point where I can do this with my hat, so that I can potentially have this be my final move into my hat. And this is the 4 jacks finale, the trapeze act, where the jacks shoot out of the deck, and then all 4 acrobatic jacks are now it's complete. That's the end. They shoot into the air. It gives you some depth here, and really ties it together because they are the acrobatic jacks. Because you can say, so this whole time what we've been doing is a little switching here, a little switching there. There's a table act, there's a in the air act, because you can do the acrobatic jacks standing up. So maybe you go from the table to standing up. There's some depth to it. And the final act is you actually see the jacks shoot into the air for the finale. And I do. That was cool. Gotta take those little moments there. One of my favorite parts about this idea is, again, like the jacks can land in the hat, and that would be the wrap up for the trick. So that's fun, and doing it that way. Let's see here. Is this where it's at? Yes. So then you can kind of end by just saying, put money in the hat if you're busking or performing, whether it be on a live or what have you, and that would be my finale for the cards. And I think it's just a good way to be impossible, right? Because at that part, with the way that it would work, when I did it, I just put the jacks to the bottom and put the rubber band on. When you actually do that, you have all of your other cards are gone at this point. You just have the 4 jacks. You finish the 4 acrobatic jacks, and potentially, with the way that would work, is, now that I think about it, the way that I normally end is I have the 4 acrobatic jacks show up face up in the pack, because that's how I started it. In this case, I'm not starting it like that, so potentially what I could do is, I wonder if it would work like that, because this is how it would, if I can control all the jacks to the bottom like I normally do, which I do in the routine, but for a different reason, I then cut the deck in order to get the jacks into the middle. I'm doing the same thing here, but when I show it, I show them face up in the middle. But I don't need to do that here because I've already got control of the jacks. I got the 2 black jacks. The 2 red jacks flew away. There's one, and there is the other one. So, that could work. Now, typically, the reason why it was this way instead of the other way is you could make that work. You would just have to do it opposite and turn it over like this, and then it would shoot out to my right hand, which would probably be easier for me to catch. So, I like that kind of a lot. To end that, because I wanted to end it with shooting the cards in the air, but I want to be able to catch them either in my hand and then spread them out to show all 4 jacks as they have flown into the air, because you'd catch them rotating through the air, and then spread them out 4 cards and then show all 4 of them, or they land into the hat, and then I can just pick them up at my leisure and just drop them back into the hat one at a time after I've shown them. And that's a great way to end that routine. But also, as we hit the 1 hour mark, a great place to end this Raise Your Level Live. I really hope people catch on to this in the future. I think there's a lot that is to be offered from this type of video, this workshop. I really hope people start to join it. I got to advertise a little bit more. And thank you, everybody. I really do appreciate you showing up. Don't forget to subscribe. It really does help out the channel. And as always, don't forget, stay positive, stay active, and stay awesome. And hopefully, we see you in the next one.